Well, hey there, everybody. How y'all doing? Oh man, just jamming out to a little foreplay, and I tell you, I really dig that band. I mean, yeah. So happy Thursday to you. It's so good to see you as I get everything under control here, and we go over that bump, and we're there, baby. So groovy, 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 groovy. So what's up, folks? Let me just make sure everything is so cool. It is. So hey, speaking favor like all over us. That's all I got to say. I mean, in abundance, not by the shovel full, the bucket full. Heck, we're going to go for the dump truck full. So, what's up? Hey, Heidi. Good to see you, my love. See you. Hello, Jules. How are you? Lost in Space, Project Skyfall, Off the Hook. And good to see you, Deborah, Linda. Hello, Heidi. So, how you been? Bonnie, good to see you. Hey, Jackie Blue, good to see you as well. I think I saw Scotty Boy there. I saw Dick in there as well, and Andrew. So welcome everybody. And I am sincere about the favor thing. Nothing missing, nothing broken. And my new term for this group is that we're such a gregarious group. Yeah, I like that. See, you don't hear that often. And so when people come in here, just let them know that, you know, if you're gregarious, you're welcome because you are amongst friends here. So anyway, what's happening? Paul Joe, good to see you, my friend. John, what's up? Good to see. It's a fantastic day. I got to tell you, you create your own reality. We all may be in a bubble, but I say if that's the case, then make it the best bubble ever. So I'm going to go over here real quick, and then I'm going to go back over here, and then I'm going to go over here. So have y'all seen this? The volcano, the fissure, it erupted yesterday, and yeah, it's a little bit late than last year, but hey, spectacular. So if y'all are into this kind of thing, this is exciting because we're watching the building of the cone. And as you can see, there's actually about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cones. What will be the big one? So yeah, I like following it. And I hope you do too. So let me get over here. But I do. All right. And I'll pull that one back out and get myself over here. So, yeah, thought y'all might like to dig that. Hey, it's an active planet. Hello, Julianne. How are you, my dear? Thank you for your gifts and talents. So glad to always have your energy here. Gloria, what's up? Hey, Kim, good to see you as well. So Lost in Space. Yeah, so guten Tag. I tell you, I like him. I mean, him and Nina, they are the best. Get right out there. And it's no easy walk either. From apparently this one as well. This one is a arduous journey. So yeah, we just send him lots of good vibrations, him and Nina both. So hey Peter, what's up? Good to see you. Greg, hello. Dirty Filthy Money. Love it. Dirty, clean, what does it matter? I mean, money. So isn't that cool though? And folks, we are prospering. If I could only tell you even a poquito amount, yeah, it's a happening, baby. So cheers to everybody. Deborah Sloan, cheers to you. Hello, Pearl Jones. How are you? Tammy, good to see you. Got the best moderators if anywhere around. We're gregarious. Don't you know? I mean, and you can tell someone that now. Well, excuse me, we're gregarious. I'll guarantee you probably maybe 9 out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10 wouldn't have no idea what you are talking about. Some may even find it offensive. You called me what? No, I didn't call you. I called me. Hey, Isby, how you doing, brother? Peace and love to you, and prosperity and abundance in the dump truck loads today. John says I pull. All right. I think I got a good thing here today. We're going to talk about this because the whole week we're going to continue. Got lots of requests to continue to dig into those books. I want to tell you what, that Grimoire, it's Doza, yeah, that's one that we're going to continue to delve into because it's all leading to, well, it may be, in fact, the greatest hoax ever put on our species. We all think that we're from the same creator. We all think that we have the same soul or origin. We think that we have all the same thing on the inside. And brother and sister, that ain't true. It ain't true. So as I wrote, if darkness was before light, and by all indications it is, then why would you ever go into the light? Light needs energy to exist. Darkness does not. But it brings, excuse me, I got a itch in my eye. You ever had that happen? Like, yeah. Check this out. I did this, oh man, long time ago. So, but it's kind of worth thinking about here as we set the stage here. All right, and give me 1 second as I hide that right there. There we go. So this plane of existence that we're in is the dark plane. It's the dark reality. It's the dark universe. It's the dark existence. Light in this realm is artificial and unnatural. Darkness consumes all energy. Energy is, in fact, light. Light is only temporary. I have a lighter. This is what we think is our reality, but this is the actual reality. It is ever being consumed. Look out into the universe itself. Light is always being consumed by the darkness. No light can exist permanently in this plane. If it doesn't have a source of energy, then it ain't light, as they would say. It ain't light, man. So that would then imply, either directly or indirectly, that consciousness is both light and darkness. So there are two types of being. A lot of this foundation of this comes from the book Biocentrism, and we're going to get into that. But consider this. There are those that are created in the light realm. The light realm is, well, it's not what you would think. Most of us would not be able to exist in the light realm. Many of our ancestors were of the dark. They lived in this plane at one time in a light that we have no idea about anymore. But from all the writings, you can extrapolate that there's also those that are created in the dark. Both are good, both are evil, depending on what particular mind worm you define both of those with. Light beings must experience dark, just as dark beings must experience light. Darkness honors light, as light honors darkness. There's not a war. If we can get out of that mind worm and realize there is no war other than the one that's being falsely predicated. And we get into this crazy belief that, well, there's Satan ruling the world. Everybody is worshiping the devil. No, everybody is worshiping the Christ. No, everyone's worshiping the Buddha. Wait a minute. When does the madness stop? But here's the point to all this. Both get lost and become trapped. So setting that as our foundation, as I get out of that and get back here to live, it begins to bring a little more clarity that, gee, we're all not the same. Never will be. Not in this realm, not over in the next realm. I don't know how many of us are trapped. Part of that journey going inside, for the gift, go inside for truth. You have to determine who and what you are. It's a concept that it's hard for a lot of people to fathom. And sadly, many are deceived. Many think they're of the light, but their origins is of the darkness. Many who think that they are of the darkness are in fact of the light. They're in rebellion. They may be trapped, but they have forgotten. But again, any way you look at this realm, look outside, darkness is everywhere. It's only disturbed when artificially something comes in, such as light. And people will say, well, you have to have light. Who says you have to have light? Mushrooms grow perfectly well in complete darkness. So, the photosynthesis, that can't be the standard. There are some who perform very well in the dark. The dark is welcoming. Here, I think to our, how should I say, our demise, we really are taught to fear the dark. But we can't sleep or rest in light. Most creation of when you are manifesting a thought form, bringing it into this realm, is done in the darkness. And light is not what we perceive it to be. We perceive white light as the only light. But again, it's the deception. Divine Empress, good day to you. How are you? S. Cook, good to see you. We are here to integrate them both. Well, and I agree. I think that, depending on where your origin, are you a light creation or are you a dark creation? The truth is, at least is what we would define truth if you believe the books that are out there. And many people do, such as the Bible, the Quran, the Vedic. I mean, they all talk about Heidi, that's interesting. That this God, whatever it calls itself, it says that it created light. And to show you how artificial this really is, it didn't know whether light was good or bad. I think it was shocked to find out, oh, well, I think it's okay. But we don't know that. I mean, if light is penetrating darkness, then that means it is ruling over darkness, which is the natural state of things. It means that the creator, the source, the God, Yahweh, Jehovah, Muhammad, Buddha, however you want to define it, are all from the dark realm. I don't know if we actually know of any true being from the light realm. Maybe I can't say that the message of Christ, you know, if you're picking and choosing, then what was written, if you have to take it into its full context, it would appear that that ain't from the light either. I don't know. Maybe there are, in fact, messengers here that are trying to rescue their kind. Maybe. Again, you have to define, well, what are you? Were you created originally in the light realm, or were you created in the dark realm? Which this is that realm. It's hard for us to fathom what the light realm really is like. It would be, in fact, the antithesis of our reality. I don't know. And I love this group. Well, the Eptic Perspective, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. But these are questions that go above religious, goes above political ideology. Is it the reason that we see so much conflict in this realm? Is that what we really do see? Is that people really have lost what they're really here to do? Maybe they're trying to find their way back. It's one of those things that volumes have been written on. A lot of us give thought to. And I don't know, what are you? Do you really think you're a light being? How do you know that? How do you know how to define light? Every definition that we have, every perception, is been defined in this realm. And I don't find that this realm is neither bad nor good. It just is. It's what we actually do with it that actually makes this a reality. So, yeah. Escu says, I'm a love being. And would that be dark, or would that be on the light? I don't know. It's one of those things that each of us have to see. How do you say, I am for sure created in darkness? In 1976, my parents did not put the light on. When they had sex. Interesting point there, Heidi. How many of us have been brought into this realm in the copulation of darkness? Well, in fact, Heidi, you bring up a very, very astute point. Didn't matter if there was light outside or not. It's inside the temple, and that temple is darkness. No creation in light there, baby. There ain't no light shining on. This ain't Tom Bodette keeping on the light for you, saying, hey, we'll keep the light on for you. Don't work that way. So you got the X and you got the Y, and then they come in and they go Y, and that's all done in darkness. So do we really think that we're beings of light? How can you say that? You weren't created in light. Gotcha. Heidi, thank you. That was profound, my lady. Profound. Well, ain't that special? It's like, okay, so now what do we do with those things? Sacred things are done in the dark, aren't they, though? Indeed. So leave the that's true. Well, that does bring up a whole new issue, doesn't it? Okay. There would be no light without the darkness. And you see, people are starting to get it. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm connecting the points here. Holy crap, Steiger, what the hell are you doing on us now? But that's why I love this group. Heidi just brought out something that's very profound. Procreation takes place in the dark. Wow. And we think that we are the spark of light. Hmm. That's all I got to say. Hey, Shannon, what's up? um, okay. I like this because, now this really brings on a serious debate. How can we say that we're of the light? Well, all right, Steiger, let's move on. All right. So, want to bring out got some books here. I thought that this one, it's a little divergence, but listen to this. We all need to listen to this. This is the book called Who Ordered This Dump Load of Crap? Basically, the title of the book. It says, and this is written by a monk, says, when all my wishes were fulfilled. This is profound, and probably more than one of us need to hear this. The author says, in my tradition, monks are not allowed to accept, own, or handle any money, that filthy lucre, well, whatever its kind. We are so poor that we mess up government statistics. We live frugally on the unsolicited, simple gifts from our lay supporters. However, infrequently, we may be offered something special. And, it's that whole thing about the path of abstinence, taking on the vow of poverty. There's enough of it in this world. I experienced it in my life. I thought it personally sucked. Certainly gave me motivation, but there are some that find solace in that. And that's cool because there's a lesson that we can learn from them as they learn from us. Anyway, this monk said, I had helped a Thai man with a personal problem. Out of gratitude, he said to me, sir, I would like to give you something for your personal use. What can I get you for the amount of 500 baht? It was usual to quote the amount when making such an offering to avoid any misunderstanding. Wouldn't that make sense? Instead of going up to someone and said, I'd really like to bless you today. What can I do for you? Well, you've just opened yourself up to if that person says, well, I need a car. Well, now you really look silly, don't you? As opposed if you gave that person $100 bill. Something to think about. Since I couldn't think of what I wanted straight away and he was in a hurry, we agreed that I could tell him the next day when he returned. Before this occurred, I was a happy little monk. Didn't have any problems, didn't have any worries, any concerns. Now I started to contemplate what I wanted. I made a list, and the list grew. Soon, 500 baht wasn't enough, but it was so difficult to take anything off the list. Wants had appeared out of nowhere and solidified into absolute necessities. Wow. And the list kept growing. Now, 5,000 baht wasn't sufficient. See what was happening? I threw my wish list away. The next day, I told my benefactor to give the 500 baht to the monastery's building fund or to some other good cause. I didn't want it. What I wanted most of all was to regain the rare contentment I had had the day before when I had no money, nor the means to get anything. That was the time when all my wishes were fulfilled. Wanting has no end to it. Even 1 billion padat isn't enough, nor $1 billion. But freedom from wanting has an end. It is when you want for nothing. Contentment is the only time you have enough. Wow. Woo. How about that one, huh? Oh, yeah. And I have another book here as he goes back to over here. It's all right. I know where we are. So just put it in there in your spice rack. It's think about it. I think Proverbs says a poor man never has to be fear of being robbed, but a rich man has to build walls. I don't know. So there we go. Now we continue. Got some other good books as we continue this, and this is just fun. That's all I got to say. The sharing of knowledge is what we're all here to do, folks. This is, by the way, a book that it's called The Occult World. It is one, if you're building a library, which I hope you are, this is a good one. I've just got it, and it is one that just even going through the table of contents and briefly reading the introduction, it's a good one. We're going to be using this in reference as well. So he starts with the occult, going back to the ancient and medieval sources, the ancient hysteric traditions, mystery, revelation, gnosis. You know, if you look at the book of Revelation that everyone is so afraid of, it's not what it is and what it has been taught in a, unfortunately at all. But it is part of the occult. And a lot of people don't think about that, but it's as deep as into the occult. In fact, it is known that John, who, if in fact he did in fact write this, we know where he was in fact buried, or so they say. Again, I don't know. I never met the man, but he was really into like Paul, deeply occult. Yeah. Anyway, it goes into the Renaissance period, which is the way I think David Barry, you might agree on this one. It was the Renaissance period that really has defined occultism that we perceive it today. I mean, when a lot of this material was being developed, we didn't know about the Sumerian text. We didn't have any idea of how far that went back. We didn't know about Göbekli Tepe. We didn't know a lot about the Indo Valley. A lot of this was not known. And so when I read like the Golden Dawn, a lot of material that came out of that period, it's only part of the knowledge. It talks about the Hermetic revival in Italy, the alchemical Hermeticism, Henry Cornelius Agrippa. I've done all of these nearly 5 years ago. Paracelsus, John Dee. John Dee is someone that I think today, quite interesting, his life. I do believe that John Dee did possess a knowledge that was stripped from us. If you believe that some of it was able to be saved, then there has to be other books. And the Liber Lilith is one of those books. Jacob Boehm and the Christian Theosophy, the Rosicrucian Manifesto and early Rosicrucianism. We're going to get into this one too, because it all has it. We've done a study on Emanuel Swedenborg, Freemasonry. And anyways, you can see the 19th century. I like his section on spiritualism. It's where I went. The New Thought traditions. What we came out of the 19th century was a revolution in understanding that thought was more powerful than what was ever imagined or written about. Elias Levy, all the ones that we talk about, Diane Fortune and the Society of Inner Light. It covers the full vampirism, lycanthropy, Orthankin, we're going to get into the vampirism and a continued chapter on that. The occult and the visual arts. Anyone that knows anything about Disney knows that Disney is heavily occultish. It has the sigils, the symbolisms, the spells, all written into the text. It's written into the visual imagery, occultism in the film. We can say with the advent of film, when I did the series on what we worship today, you could say in one hand that film revived paganism, occultism back to the pinnacle, to where it belonged. Then again, you have to begin to ask, well, how did they get that knowledge? I will tell you from my nearly 2 decades in the industry that much of the writing that is done in a manner that most have no idea. It's deeply occultish. But hey, so is Christianity. So is, the Abrahamic traditions. I mean, it's all your point of view. There's again occult in the modern horror fiction, occult in science fiction and fantasy. Science fiction has done, you think about Gene Roddenberry. I grew up as a boomer with television, 1960. And, my grandparents who I lived with at the, growing up, we had the first color TV. But my point was, I grew up watching science fiction. It's quite amazing. Commander Cody. I could think of a number of the Saturday morning programs that I would watch that were all fanaticism. And we don't talk about fanaticism, but fanaticism rules much of our thinking. And again, you can find this. Then he gets into the Kabbalah, alchemy, sex magic. I have so much material on sex magic, and you have to walk a fine line. But it's one of the most hidden Gnostics that I know of. And it's been so polluted, so inverted, so restrictive. Even in this day of so-called wokeness, we are still, as a species, very much repressed in our perceptions of sex. The tarot, scrying, astrology, the grimoires, Orientalism and the occult war. And there is in fact, I believe, but we're in the middle of an occult war. There is a huge battle where occultism is concerned. You've got those who have possessed the knowledge that are pissed off that there's others like us who have discovered it and then have the audacity to go out and make it public. They don't like that. The counterculturism, intermediary beings. This is another interesting one. It gets into, we ain't alone. The body and occult thought, drugs and the occult. I'll just say this. Drugs have played a major role in spiritualism, occultism, in worship. I don't care what religion it is. Drugs play a major role in that religion. And it's, you can be in denial, but you're not living in Egypt. Gender in the occult, crime. Another take on crime is what people don't realize is happening. It's an altar. It's an altar of sacrifice. Now, we can define what that altar is, but it is. And again, this is a book that I would highly recommend you checking out. So as we're getting into this whole thing, white, black, light, dark, Satan, God, Jesus, Muhammad, I mean, it's all there. And it's so much confusion because all of it seems to be coming from the same pot. I mean, we're making gumbo here. And to make a good gumbo, you throw everything except for the kitchen sink. And if the kitchen sink has been good, then you put that in there too. all things are one. And I'm just going to read a little bit. If you don't have this book, it is a great book. It's not a difficult read, and it's one that will inject, well, a different view of things. It says, how can a man whose career revolves around stretching the scientific method to its outer bounds, stem cell research, animal cloning, reversing the aging process at the cellular level, bear witness to the limits of his profession, but that there is more to life than can be explained by our science? I readily recall how everyday life makes this obvious. Just a short time ago, I crossed a causeway of the small islands I call home. The pond was dark and still. I stopped and turned off my flashlight. Several strange glowing objects caught my attention on the side of the road. I thought that they were some of those jack-o'-lantern mushrooms. You know, I believe that is Cladocine illinodones, those luminous caps, and just started to push up through the decaying leaves. I squatted down to observe one of them with my flashlight. It turned out to be a glowworm, the luminous larvae of the European beetle. There were primitiveness in its segmented oval body, like some troglodyte that had just crawled out of the Cambrian Sea 500 million years ago. There we are, the beetle and I, two living objects that had entered into each other's world and yet were fundamentally linked together all along. It ceased emitting its greenish light, and I, for my part, turned off my flashlight. I wondered if our little interaction was any different from that of any two objects in the universe. Was this primitive little grub just another collection of atoms, proteins, and molecules spinning like planets around the sun? Could it be grasped by a mechanistic logic? It is true that the laws of physics and chemistry can tackle the rudimentary biology of the living system. And as a medical doctor, I can recite in detail the chemical foundations and cellular organization of animal cells. Oxidation, biophysical, metabolism, all the carbohydrates, lipids, and amino acid patterns. But there were more to this luminous little bug than the sum of its biochemical functions. A full understanding of life cannot be found only by looking at cells and molecules. Conversely, physical existence cannot be divorced from the animal life and structures that coordinate sense, perception, and experience. It seems likely that this creature was the center of its own sphere of physical reality, just as I was the center of mine. We were connected not only by intertwined consciousness, nor simply by being alive at the same moment in Earth, 3.9 billion year biological history, but by something both mysterious and suggestive, a pattern that is a template for the cosmos itself. Just as the mere existence of a postage stamp of Elvis would reveal to an alien visitor much more than a frozen snapshot of the pop music history. The slug and its tale to tell that could illuminate even the depths of a wormhole, if we only had the right mindset to understand it. Although the beetle stayed equiescent there in the darkness, it had little walking legs nearly lined up under its segmented body and possessed sensory cells that transmitted messages to the cells in its brain. Perhaps the creature was too primitive to collect data and pinpoint my location in space. Maybe my existence in its universe was limited to some huge and hairy shadow stabilizing a flashlight in the air. I don't know. But as I stood up and left, I no doubt dispensed into the haze of probability surrounding the glowworm's little world. He changed it. Our science to date has failed to recognize those special properties of life that make it fundamental to material reality. This view of the world in which life and consciousness are the bottom line in the understanding of larger universe, biocentrism, revolves around why a subjective experience, which we call consciousness, relates to a physical process. It is a vast mystery that I have pursued my entire life with a lot of help along the way. Standing on the shoulders of some of the greatest and most lauded minds of the modern age, I've also come to conclusions that would shock the conventions of my predecessors, placing biology above other sciences in an attempt to find the theory of everything that has evaded other disciplines. Some of the thrill that came with the announcement that the human genome had been mapped, or the idea that we are close to understanding the first second of time after the Big Bang, rest in our innate human desires for completeness and totality. Wow. But most of these comprehensive theories fail to take into account one crucial factor. We are creating them. It is a biological creature that fashions the stories, that makes the observations, and that gives names to things. And therein lies the great expanse of our oversight, that science has not confronted the one thing that is at the most of the center, as he goes and says, well, where was that? Try reading this sometimes yourself. It's like, okay, but what science has not confronted is why. Experience. So, consciousness, we talk about it all the time. It's all we've been talking about. If this is the dark universe, then it clearly states that consciousness can, in fact, does exist in this reality. It also says, and it would have to be, that there appears to be a consciousness that exists in the light realm, the light universe. I don't know what that consciousness is like. I don't know. We've been discussing the aspect of vampirism. So much of this book, wow, really triggered a lot in people. Because I think we now realize that if the dark realm exists, let's say that it does, then what's happening here? It's interesting to say, well, if we're all feeders, we all are. We have to feed. So, in essence, we're all vampires. You may not drink the blood, and then the stereotype of the modern nomenclature of the culture that we live in. But the fact is, we're all vampiric in our nature. Love is vampirism. Think about it. If you love someone, you want to share that love, and they want to give you love. Well, that's a transference, right? Anyway, our author here in chapter 2, I wanted to bring this back into play in here. White light doesn't always work, okay? Because now we got to ask ourselves, so what is white light? Do we really think that white light is good, somehow holy, somehow better than black light? Back in my tripping days, I had the black lights, the true black lights, and the black light posters. Wish I still had those posters, but kind of dug that black light thing. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway, it says, as a result of my studies into occult and my writings, I have been able to communicate with many people on the subject of psychic self-defense. The underlying theme from those that ask me for advice is, how is it possible to deal with negative energy? And more importantly to them, how is it possible to deal with negative entities that seem to make life a living hell? Well, I always try to do my best to help them. All right, I have a question then. So what's the battle here? I mean, do we truly know that negativism is of the darkness? We've been taught that construct, but I'm challenging that. Why? Why has it been given the label of bad, evil, not wanted? Who made that definition? Who taught us that? By the way, I ask you, who taught you that negative energy was bad? I mean, if you come into a situation, let's say into a community with preset biasness of those who live into that community, I can make a prediction that you're probably not going to have a good time, and they ain't either. Let's continue. Unfortunately, from all the research that I have done, it seems to me that attacks by negative entities of one form or another are actually on the rise. Why? I find some of the stories that are told to me quite disturbing, and I'm truly disturbed to hear that nothing that people try to protect themselves from negative energies or entities work. Why is that? Why are we constantly having to be like the boxer? I mean, we're always training. As the 3-year-old said, to her mother about the monsters outside, I'm going to kick their ass. She said, why? We know the story. She said, because they're going to try to kick my ass. Makes you think, huh? So there's psychic shields, there's pentagram rituals, there's crystal, garlic, psychic cleansing, exorcism. These have little to no effect on the negative forces that accost them. People that are contacting me for help are usually individuals that have tried everything in order to defend themselves and failed. There are even times when I flinch as a little as I read or hear about what they have tried in order to stop the negativity in their lives. I can be there. I have been there. And it is a battle to get yourself out of there. You're in quicksand. And it is difficult. It can be done. I am living proof of that. Many of you are as well. This says the reason is that I know for a fact that most of the methods that are taught by others do not work, and that in some cases it even makes things worse. I write this book then in order to try and to help the ever-increasing number of people that are being actively attacked by negative forces of one kind or another. In this book, I offer a radically different yet incredibly old and efficient method of fighting off that which would hurt and prey upon you. Most of the books and courses that I have seen in psychic self-defense teach some kind of shielding or some kind of mirror internal energy work. While I do consider internal energy work to be highly positive, this work usually involves mirror fluctuations within the body energy system itself and is therefore quite passive in nature. Passive self-defense does not work in the long run. It is also my opinion that creating a shield in order to protect yourself provides such little help generally that one could say it is more of a hindrance than any kind of help. The psychic shield is, as it usually employed by a neophyte, is bad because those that implement them usually feel quite safe behind their walls, which they are not, and therefore go about taking dangerous risks in areas where predatory forces can scoop them up like candy. Also, it is sometimes the case that attempts to create a psychic shield can have the reversed effect, in that you end up feeding and empowering those nasty things that you are so desperately trying to stop. A powerful visualized shield of some kind using positive light, or a more complicated shielding method like the laser pentagram ritual, tends to only be effective for a short period of time. Powerful shielding of this nature is only good for those that are exploring the magical realms and need to protect themselves for a limited period of time while they rest, have contact with dangerous entities, or explore highly precarious areas within the dark sea of human awareness. Wow. Holy crap. I mean, we could spend, wow, just an hour on that alone. Woo. It says the reason for this is that this kind of shielding was developed to only wall off the sorcerer for a time, and then to open up so that the sorcerer is able to deal directly with the forces that he or she seeks. These more developed shields created by adepts are also highly dependent on the skill and energy level of the practitioner. If you haven't had enough experience and practice, or if you do not have the energy output required to create a strong shield, then this shield will go down soon after your concentration dwindles, after which you will be left open to whatever wants to prey upon you. The only type of shielding that is truly effective is the one that is created using servitors or talisman, which is actually a physical bond servitor. We've taught about this. Whenever you hear about someone telling you that you need to create a permanent shield around yourself, whether they know it or not, they are usually telling you that you must implement a technique that is essentially the creation and maintenance of a serviceable thought form. Amazing how all this comes full circle, isn't it? You know, our egregore gift. Talk to them every day. Her. You can, for example, create a servitor that will take the shape of a shield that completely covers you, sort of like a cocoon. This is usually referred to as the wall of warding. Or another version of this might be a servitor, that looks like a lamp and is designed to flood you with positive light in order to keep negative entities at bay. Someone needs to hear this. You can do this. You have been practicing long enough. You can do this. You've been asking. Well, here it is. You can also design a talisman which symbolically represents your servitor and empower it and bind the servitor to the talisman so that whenever you wear this talisman, you are being actively protected by the bond servitor. I got a number of them that have been in charge, as you would say. Creating a servitor requires skill. Just go back in the archives and I'll lead you hand by hand. If you want the book, I have the book, got several of them. Requires skill and a good amount of personal energy. And may I say, if your energy tends to be of a less positive nature, work on that first, because your essence, your DNA, that spiritual essence will in fact empower that servitor or talisman, sigil. You can also design the talisman, again, that represents your servitor, and empower and bind the servitor to the talisman so that whenever you wear this talisman, you are being actively protected by a bond servitor. Creating a servitor requires skill and a good amount of personal energy. A servitor cannot create its own energy, so you must empower it, feed it with your own energy, or else it becomes inert and ineffective. Did someone else pick up on this? That's kind of a symbiotic relationship. Isn't that a psychic vampire? Oh, maybe I'm just thinking out loud. If you would like to know more about servitors and how to use them properly, I suggest you get How to Create a Servitor or Do Your Bidding. We got that book. If you want it, you should read it. It's powerful. There is one problem, though, even with the use of servitors as shields. The problem is that in order to create an effective servitor, you need to have plenty of energy and focus. What if you are already too weak from an attack to create an effective servitor? What if you are already drowning in bad luck and cannot concentrate in any way to help yourself, let alone concentrate enough on a magical technique that you might not be familiar with? What if you don't have someone that can create a servitor to help you? Those that like to use minerals or powders in order to create barriers around themselves are also oftentimes deluded as to the effectiveness of these methods. While certain crystals and natural substances like garlic can be quite effective in dealing with some form of negative attack, I guess that's why they don't come in my kitchen. Ask my wife. I love cooking with garlic. Huh? Well, there you go. Uh, in our kitchen, man, it's alchemy love, baby. That's all I got to say. The food is good, and it's good for you. There you go. The best way to explain this is to use the metaphor of the mosquito. While it is true that DEET can keep mosquitoes away, it is the case that you need to douse yourself in the stuff in order to protect yourself completely. If you missed one spot, one tiny spot, the mosquito will find it. It is patient and has many clever ways of finding the holes in your armor. If none of these psychic self-defense methods work, then what are we left with? We are left with the only option that is really available to us, the vampire's way. In order to use this form of psychic protection, we must make a radical change in how we perceive ourselves. We must stop acting like a herd animal and start acting like the predators that we all are. We must stop hiding behind antlers, cool camouflage, and big herds. We have to dust off the old claws that were always there and begin to do our best to devour those that would devour us. And I see, what a great segue. Chapter 3, Predator or Prey, what shall you be? And I like it. It's almost as if we each have a vampire inside of us. Controlling that beast, that dark side, is what fascinates me. Cheryl Lee. Well, there you go. And, I'm not going to get into that because we won't have time and it sucks. So there you go. I love this stuff. What we just learned today was, and we're, if you look again, light being, dark beings, which are we? If we're fighting negative entities, well, I guess then the question is, does that somehow, I have met people that were just a negative by nature. They didn't seem to be plagued with a lot of attacks. I've noticed something about negative people. They're very seldom repentant. They very seldom have any real kind of self-doubt. So what's going on here? I had a plant manager. I'll never forget the guy. And you could tell him, because I'm a positive guy, I get up and anyway, doesn't. And on a number of occasions, I would say good morning. And his response was, what the fuck's good about it? And that's how he starts his day off. So, what's going on? Last night, I was too smart for the mosquito. I hear it, saw it, and smashed it. Bye, baby. Exactly. Heidi, it's beautiful. I don't know. It's one of those questions. So what's going on here? Are negative energies, what if they're from the light? I mean, we've named them. I mean, it's we that's named them. And what if this was some complex plan of some highly intelligent species, life form, said, well, we're really going to screw them. Maybe that's why the world is so messed up now. That's why we seem to go in this ever repeating cycle. I mean, because it's a shit show out there. Let's just be honest with ourselves. It's not pretty, but it's beautiful in enclaves like this. Why can't we take this out there? It's just something. Caroline, Jesus will protect. Well, whatever works. That's what I say. Whatever works. And that's how we get along with one another. That's how we become acceptance of one another. Because if you find, for instance, a positive energy in that, well, then that tells me that it has the ability that it would be positively received no matter what position you have. So that's cool. Lost in Space, thank you, my friend. Monkey thinking is Darwinism. Antichrist thinking, texting. Folks, remember, if the story of a Christ was true, they've had 2,000 years to perfect the message. Something ain't working. And at some point in time, we've got to stop pretending that the emperor is wearing new clothes. Sometime humanity is going to have to wake up. No God is going to save us. No Savior is going to save us. It's us. But we've certainly shown that we don't want to be saved. Isn't that the truth? Yeah. Paul Joe says it really is right before our eyes. It really is. So there we go. They hacked the message, didn't they, though? They screwed it up is what they did. All right, folks, fabulous time. I am taking tomorrow off, going scouting. Yes. Heidi, indoctrination, you learn to hold on to the wrong energy until you break out of it. Then you get a hold of the right energy and easy. Okay. Yeah, that's true. It's absolutely, my dear. Chris, thank you. I am. I always try to be careful. Going out and checking out a place that someone suggested. So I'll be, who knows? I may do a Saturday show, but I don't know. They hacked our reality. Carolyn, I believe that's true. I really think that they, no doubt about it. They hacked our DNA. We know that. In tens of thousands, let's say 1 million years of us existing, and we only have an IQ of 100 or less, and we only live less than 100 years, that's a hacked system. How does a species ever evolve enough if it's killed before it's ever had time to incorporate it? Wow. All right, on that happy note. All right, folks. Much love to you. Namaste. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Thank you for your beautiful energy. Love yourself, and then you're going to be able to love others. Very difficult to love someone when you don't love yourself. It'll screw up a relationship every time. All right. Much love to y'all.